Holy shit, Nosebro just killed my anus.
Do you think this is a one-shot Ganon? Oh, well, isn't this touching and adorable?
I feel like it.
Maybe I'll make Link sing
Dude,
from now on.
pick up the rock. Like, what the actual fuck, dude? Pick up the rock. Oh my god, pick up the rock.
Alright, I am going to be showing you guys how to do the BTB from Cryonis to Magnesis. Those of you guys who don't know, we have to do this BTB. It's very, very fast. However, it's very precise because you have to get it done very specifically. It is possible to back it up if you don't get the right kind of BTB. But obviously, it's faster to do it the right way. So you just saw me do the buffer strat there. Basically, I buffered until I got a specific setup or out on a specific frame or set of frames that I wanted. And that allowed me to get this super far BTB that allows me to travel all the way to the Magnesis Shrine. This is very important because, again, if you don't get this one and you end up making it not close enough, then you have to back it up with a launch. And I'll show you guys here the launch that you would back it up with, just in case you mess it up. So you know how to back up this glitch in an actual run. What you saw me get there, by the way, was what we call unloaded. If you do the BTB in a very specific way, you can have the door to Magnesis unloaded, so you don't have to clip in the shrine. It saves you a few seconds, and it's really nice to get. But it's also very finicky. We don't quite sure what goes into it 100%. But when you do get it, it's really nice. Oh, I accidentally got the right one. So if you do get a really, really high one, then normally you end up dropping right about here. If you do end up dropping here, it's not a big deal. Basically, all you would do is you would gather these arrows that spawn right here. And then you just walk up here, point so that it lines up between these two trees. See how I line up with those two trees? In the middle of them. Do a quick little rocket launch. Shoot straight. Get up on here. Look up and to the right. And that should take you right to the Magnesis Shrine. So this is a good setup for just in case you fail the BTB that I'm showing you here now. But anyways, so I'll explain to you the setup that I use to ensure that I get it correct and I get it far enough to take me all the way to the Magnesis Shrine. So essentially what I'm doing, and I'll break this down bit by bit. Essentially what I'm doing here is I'm coming over to here. As soon as I get to this platform, this flat inclined platform, I'm lining up. So you notice that on the crosshair here of me throwing, it's got a top, a left, a right, and a bottom line. I use those lines to set up. So we're looking at the one on the right. The one on the right is lined up right with that little piece of that little shape, that weird shaped circle on the mountain. Okay, so you line up there and then you pull your shield so that Link is constantly facing that direction. Okay, scoot down to the edge and you see Link's left foot. You want to scoot his left foot down so it's just a little bit off, not quite so that he's centered on the thing, but just so he's just a little bit off. So right about there is perfect. I'm gonna eat real quick or I'm gonna die. So then after you've done that, you want to shoot down here, and you see how there's a line going down and hitting the mountain there, a line there, and a line there. These two lines right there, you want to shoot onto the mountain, just on the line, the first one, and then you want to point at the second one, and that's going to cause those two bokoblins to come over. So then you go ahead and put your bow away and put your shield out, and then you want to make it so that your camera is facing all the way down, and that the first bokoblin, the one ahead, is walking towards you, and he's right centered on your screen. So you notice he's right at the center of my screen, and I'm looking straight down. Then you pull your axe, and right as he reaches his destination and starts looking around, you want to swing your axe twice. At the end of your second swing, you're going to jump off, and that's going to be right as he's turning, okay? And this is where the buffering comes in. Take a close look at Link's right hand, the one that's next to the hilt of the axe. As I go down, his hand gets closer and closer to the bokoblin. And you notice the bokoblin's ear. I'm using that ear as a visual cue. When Link's hand, or rather, when the bokoblin's ear is mostly below Link's hand, I'm going to then pull my bow on the next frame. So you see right there, it's kind of not blocking it, but there's still quite a bit of the ear that's above Link's hand. So this frame is not a good frame for me to stop on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of the D-pad, and then I'm going to try and wait a little bit before pulling my bow and see if that gives me the right frame. No, so that gave me a really high one. So you notice I was very early, and I even said I would be early because of that frame. Should I have frame buffered another frame? Perhaps. The problem with frame buffering in Breath of the Wild is you don't get a frame by frame. It's usually like 2 or 3 frames that go by. So it's kind of a risk to buffer another frame because you may risk buffering too many frames and then end up being too late. Let me put it this way. It's better for you to be too early than to be too late. If you're too late, you will miss the launch. If you're too early, you'll still get the launch, but you'll get that high launch that I showed you, and then you just back it up with the tree launch that I showed you earlier. So again, do the setup. See, that right there is a very good frame, because most of the bokoblin's ear is now below Link's hand. So this next frame, I'm going to pull my bow, and that gets me the very far launch. You notice that this one is much further and not nearly as high. So this is going to take me straight to the Magnesis Shrine. And that's exactly what you want. You want to make it all the way to the Magnesis Shrine. You have to be very careful because with lag, sometimes it won't let you put your shield away. So be very conscious about when you start spamming the B button to put your shield away. Otherwise, Link is just going to keep on buffering until he reaches the edge of that cliff, like I almost did. So one more time, I'll show you again. Center myself, get over to the side, pull my bow, hit that line, point to the second line, do the jump, boom. That was a little bit early and I waited a little bit. That may not work. I'm going to try and see if I can bounce this. My angle's off too. I was able to save it. That's not too bad. You just run to the shrine if that happens. But again, the reason that happened was because I ended up pulling a little bit too early, just a tad. And then I also ended up waiting too long in bullet time. That would have worked very well had I not done either of those two things. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of practice for you to be able to get the timing down for your buffers and to really understand and know when to buffer more and when to just take the buffer that you have. See, like that was way late. I tried to risk it by buffering a little bit more, but it gave me, I think, 3 frames worth of buffering. And that was way, way late. And so you just saw what happened. The glitch completely failed. I reiterate, you want to be earlier rather than later. So in that instance, I probably should have just let it go and tried to YOLO it. See, that's what you want, really. Looks like I was aiming a little bit too far to the right. But yeah, that is this glitch. I'll show you. I'll just do it a couple more times so you guys can see a few examples of it being done, what went wrong, what went right, and I'll comment on them just so you guys can get a feel for them. It's, again, probably the worst BTB of most of the categories, in my opinion anyways. Others will probably tell you differently. But in my opinion, it's probably the worst BTB of them all. Which is why it's nice to have a consistent setup for it. And there's the unloaded again. So yeah, that one, pretty much everything that could go right did. It was very nice. Really, you just want to make sure that you're buffering at the right times, and then if you get the bad frames on your buffer, to be able to adjust accordingly. And that's really difficult, not gonna lie. I still have trouble adjusting accordingly to my late frames or my early frames. Yeah, and see, that was a late frame, and there's really not a lot you can do about late frames, honestly. If you take the gamble and go for an extra buffer and you get a late frame, you're pretty much rip.